was my husband that and a select group of friends that actually brought me back to voice, because I read out loud all the time. My husband puts up with a lot at home, a lot of funny voices, and I'm always doing voices with my friends, and we always love to have parties where we are characters. So it's always been a part of my nature to do that. And he put a book in front of me and got me started with some coaching. And he said, I think this is where you really belong. And he was right. So bless my husband.
Well, we're so excited to have you here. And I was so excited to have you here that I forgot to actually hit the live button on YouTube. So we were going live just a little bit later than we normally do. So folks, I apologize
about that because I wasn't getting my feed.
I apologize, folks. That was my bad. Thank you to those who are here and were waiting for the stream to go live.
Live TV, baby.
That's what it is. That's exactly. So welcome to A Bookish Moment. And we, of course, we're joined by Melissa Green. Melissa is the narrator for many of my book series. We're celebrating in particular Flying Off the Candle today.
Yes, we are.
So welcome. Thanks. I see everybody popping into the chat. There you guys are. Thank you. Sorry again for the technical difficulties on my end.
It's just such an exciting day, Sarah. It's tough to keep track of everything. And really, by the way, Kermit says congratulations. I want Kermit for you today.
It's not easy being green. So
no, it's not.
And folks, you actually didn't miss too much because I actually just played a trailer of Flying Off the Candle. So there goes that marketing opportunity on my end. But again, we're joined by Melissa. We're delighted to be able to chat about Flying Off the Candle and about Melissa's process for bringing to life Hazel, Poppy, and the whole gang in Crucible. So again, thank you for being here. And as a special treat for our viewers who are joining us live, we are doing a fun audiobook giveaway. And I'm just going to actually announce the magic word at this point in time. So it gives you guys,
almost like this is your show or something.
Yeah. It's almost like I can do what I want, especially like not starting it. So if anybody is interested in entering to win a free copy of Flying Off the Candle on audiobook, please enter the word whim into the Google chat. The free codes are provided to us by Spotify. So you do have to have a basic Spotify account. You don't have to have one of their paid accounts or anything, just an email to claim that code. So if you'd like to be entered for the chance to win a copy of it, please type in the word whim. And without further ado, we'll continue our show. Flying Off the Candle. Melissa, I'm going to throw a question to you first and foremost. When you begin a new project, and maybe especially one that, this is your third time voicing the characters in Crucible, what is like the process that you go through when you get a manuscript for the first time?
Well, definitely different third book versus first book. Mm-hmm. Third book, I'm mostly going back, revisiting. I kind of know where the characters sit in my physicality, in my voice. I know what their voices feel like. But when I first get a manuscript and it's the first book, especially if I know it's a series, but if it's a book that I'm new to, when I'm reading through it, I really try and pick up any clues in the type of vocabulary that different characters will utilize, anything that are typical sayings for them, what role they play in their friend group, any indicators that you guys give, obviously, of he had a dark gravelly voice or she had a high bright voice. Those are low-hanging fruit, right? But I keep a running tally off to the side of all these notes of what builds up each individual character. And then I wander around my house like a crazy person and clean or do the dishes. And I talk like I'm that character until it feels right for them. It feels like, if it's a big hulking guy, it feels like it comes out of a big chest, or, until it feels like, I think that's what they would sound like. And then I have to send that to my author and go, is this what, kind of what you were thinking in your head. And we start that back and forth. But on my end, it's really dissecting that text for any clues as to the personality behind that character. And if we don't see that character be really vocal, what are they thinking when they're listening to the other people, when they're not actually the ones speaking? What's their subtext? That's a really big part of it for me. So you are a great author to work with that way, Sarah, because you put out with your blog your characters answering people's questions, or your characters' inner thoughts, and you do so much with your characters outside the text as well. It's pretty easy for me to get a lot of subtext from that as well, yeah, so you make it very easy for me to bring new character voice ideas to you and just come with really pointed questions. Hey, in this situation, what was this character actually thinking? And I love that you're always so open for that sort of discussion, because that really feeds a lot of what I'm putting into the listener's ear.
I love that I am helping you in some way, because I feel like your performances often help me as the creator of these people, because there are often characters that they kind of have like a walk-on role where it's like, I'm here to deliver some important plot information, but then I'm like never going to be seen from again in this series because of just I'm serving this one purpose.
Sure.
But you have the ability to bring these people to life so vividly that I'm like, well, how could I make this person come back? Because I just get hooked by the way that you perform. Specifically, one of the characters that folks meet in Flying Off the Candle, she had a very, very small role. Her name is Keely, and she is the daughter of a man who runs an agricultural store. And I was like, oh, she is just a part of this scene to deliver one piece of information. And yet the way that you presented her, I was like, what's her story? Why is she working for her dad? Why is she the way that she is? And it just got me thinking, how can I bring Keely back in another book? Because I want to hear her voice again, and I want to hear more from her.
Oh my gosh, I love that, because the questions that you just voiced are the questions that I have to think about when you give me a character like that. And I loved that scene that Keely was in with her dad, because you gave her so much immediate pizzazz. Her dad is such a character anyway. He's kind of the local go to him for a story, but don't go to him if you have a busy day. You're gonna have to bring a pop or bring some tea and sit down, and it's gonna be a Saturday chat with him, no matter if it's Tuesday or Saturday. And we've all met that person. We all love that person. But if that person was your dad, and if you were living your life and you had things to do, and dad's supposed to be running this business, but he really wants to just chat people up anymore, so somebody's still got to keep it going, what would be your drivers? What would be? And she was just sassy enough to just, Dad, I love you. I love everything about you, but we got to keep the show rolling. You can't tell us another story, and she just had so much immediate character. I thought, I've met this girl. I've met both of these people before. And so she was really fun. She was really fun to give a voice to, and she just popped right into that scene. It was really great.
I love to hear it.
That is. And I do want to take a second, folks, as we're celebrating the release of Flying Off the Candle. It's a fabulous book. I was fortunate enough to read a copy. I have not listened to it, but I did read it, and I absolutely loved it. So you all know what you need to do. I do want to take a second to say shout out to everybody hanging out with us. Farmhouse Reader, Mark, Susan, DHB, Mizan, Sir Read-A-Lots, Sir Reads a Lot, Farmhouse Reader. Thank you all for hanging out with us.
Yes,
and, big round of applause to both Sarah and Melissa for bringing us back to Crucible and giving us another wonderful story. Melissa, one of the questions that I have for you as a voice artist, and as we see, you're hanging out in your studio right now, I'm assuming, is Super basic one. How do you keep track of all the characters? Because like you talked about, you have to spend so much time until you get to know somebody. And then and then it may be, however many months or maybe a year until you see these characters again. How do you keep track of them and forget or keep from forgetting how somebody talks?
Fair, great question. I know every voice actor has a slightly different methodology for that. Obviously, we work on slightly different software and we come from slightly different backgrounds. Because I come from a very operatic, vocal, singing, musical background, a lot of my character notes, besides personality, drive, what kind of vocal quality this person has, I also take secondary notes for myself that are a little bit more technical. Where does my tongue sit? What parts of my lips do I engage or disengage? Do they not use their jaw? How do they stand? I really have a lot of physicality of that character. But then as a really easy reference, especially if I'm in the middle of the project, I drop markers for myself. This is the first time this character speaks. Every time this character shows up, go back and listen to that until that vocal posture is really solid for that character, and remind yourself how they sound. That doesn't take too many iterations, especially in a cozy mystery, because you guys aren't throwing hundreds of characters at me. I'm not shouting as a battle commander on one side for one moment, and then all of a sudden I have a giant band of 20 dwarves that all have to have different, fantasy can be, hundreds of characters in a book. And whereas a cozy mystery, gives me a really good opportunity to get a lot of clarity with where those characters sit and what those characters sound like, and really try and make them distinct, which is a nice bonus to cozy mysteries. Is they can be really nice, distinct voices, and I can get really comfortable with them, just like the readers can get really comfortable in the environments that you guys create for them. These adorable towns that we all want to live in. So it suits the industry that you guys kind of keep the character roster a little bit smaller, and I can really appreciate that.
Well, I have trouble keeping track of my characters. I hear you there. And I just want to say that Mizan chimed in saying she just finished it today and definitely a must read. So good on you. Read and must listen.
Thank you, Mizan.
And hey, we are kind of talking about around things a little bit. Sarah, tell us about the book. What happens?
Well, so we find, we're returning to Crucible. This is book 3 in the Glenmyre Wim mysteries. This time around, Hazel and her Aunt Poppy, who is also her best friend, they are on the case trying to clear the name of their friend, Constance Crane. Constance is a big cozy mystery author, and she has moved to Crucible. She's become a part of the community, and unfortunately, she has a friend visiting her who turns up dead a couple weeks later. And because Constance was really the only person that this woman had a connection to in Crucible, everyone's like, well, it's kind of got to be her. But of course, Hazel and Poppy are like, our friend wouldn't do that, we know. And Poppy especially knows that Constance is not a killer, because Poppy has a ability, which is called a whim, that she's able to see the colors or an aura around a person that reveals their feelings, their reactions, their response to a certain situation. So she's able to get a read on people really well. And so she's fairly confident that she's like, you know what, Constance, there may be some stuff going on, but she's not a killer. So Hazel and Poppy together have to team up to figure out who in Crucible did this woman in before they're the ones who get burned.
Yeah, because I tell you what, and disclaimer here, folks, I got to read an early copy, the advantages of being a one of Sarah's buddies, and I tell you what, there were 2 different times where I literally was texting Sarah saying, I figured it out, I know who did it, this is what happened. And Sarah just like responds with just like a little emoji, like, yeah, you might want to keep reading, Jim. So yeah, so there is that. So yeah, it's full of twists and turns, and it's absolutely delightful. And so, Melissa, I want to kind of throw another question back to you. The book and all of Sarah's mysteries are fun and full of twists and turns. As the voice artist, do you find when you are doing your prep, how do you react when you're reading something during your prep and something really surprises you and catches you kind of off guard? How do you then kind of get that onto the page to help maybe build that suspense for us folks who are listening?
Well, first off, when I'm doing my first read for all my character notes and all of my oh my gosh exclamation mark scenes, I'm usually making notes. And it used to be that I would give Sarah access to those notes so that she could answer any questions. And then I thought, nay, I shouldn't be doing that. Because it would be a whole bunch of my first impressions as well. Oh gosh, look at what's happening with this scene. I wonder if this is going to be the person. Oh, you can tell it's definitely going to be that guy. This thing he just did, that was so sus. And I thought, she doesn't need all of that. That's superfluous. That's just my reactions as a reader. But yeah, a lot of those, I will just put exclamation points like, oh, wow.
Okay.
But you get so wrapped up in the scene, just as a reader, that it's pretty easy to create that tension and that build that any reader reading that is going to feel. So if there's something that I need to tone down my reaction to, because I don't know, we're going to stick in a red herring, or we need to kind of draw the focus a little bit elsewhere, and I need to not just follow that natural reader vibe of shock and awe, then I'll really make a note of it for myself so that I don't get carried away when I'm reading it live for the microphone. But otherwise, what you guys put into the text for us, we're just uncovering it. We're just reading. We're just really those reader geeky people that curled up in the library. We're just that as adults. You've just put us in this nice padded box in front of a microphone.
Well, and speaking of the padded box, Susan chimed in, has a question for you. Excuse me there. Susan would like to know, and this is kind of a question for both of you, really. First off, how far in advance do you get the script / book? So like, when did you get, Flying Off the Candle from Sarah? And then how long does it take you to get to that finished product?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question.
And it varies from project to project. In this instance, Susan, this is the very first time that Melissa has actually gotten the script before the book has gone live. Usually I've done in the past where I release the book on ebook and paperback, and then we get together and we work on getting the audiobook out there when we can. But I don't know like what I was thinking this time around, but it's like, hey, like maybe we can try to do this simultaneously. And I honestly, was it like maybe April, May that we finally like got the finished script to you, Melissa? I don't even
It was
remember.
April because it was right before my birthday.
Oh, okay. Yes. What a great present.
Okay.
I got the script for my birthday and I was super excited about it because I think my emails to you are always, you just give me the script as soon as you're ready. Because I'm just shameless, as soon as she's got something else for me to read, I want to read it no matter if we have, when we're recording the audiobook scheduled or not. I just shamelessly want the next script so I can figure out what the next mystery is. But yeah, this one was a nice quick turnaround.
It was yes.
It was pretty fun.
And like the fact that you're able to like put these together, when and even like when we first started working together, I was always like really impressed, like, wow, like it's amazing how quickly an audiobook comes together when we're focusing on the project. So I think like really it was only maybe like three or 4 weeks of you doing the magic on your end before I was able to listen to the tracks on my side. So again, like it boggles my mind like how quickly it all comes together.
Yeah, I have a real advantage that way, just in case there are any other super secret authors listening. Um, I have an advantage that way because I have my home studio. As you can see, I live in this room. um, but I also I am in charge of our post production. So I am in charge of, the editing and mastering, and I am in charge of the proofing, and I outsource that team, and I know those people. So I have a lot more control over what our schedule is that way.
Mm.
Whereas when you're working with a larger production company, there's a lot more moving pieces, and you have to be scheduled into that docket because they only have so many post-production people. So your recorded content might have to sit in line while it waits to be edited and mastered and then proofed and then sent back and corrections made. And so the amount of time that an audiobook takes can really vary depending on whether you're putting it through a big publishing house or whether you're putting it through, an indie publisher such as myself. Because I'm the one that creates the schedule. So I knew when our release party was going to be, and I thought, all right, everybody, you're bumping everything else for this. Let's go. So just as a little bit of an aside there, if other people have experienced it not being a 4-week turnaround, that might be why.
Well, I think both JC and I can agree on like the differences between indie and like a traditional publishing house, because like that's our experience as the author as well.
Yeah.
So it's funny to see that everywhere.
Yeah. And it can be far more wild working with a publisher and getting corrections for a project 6 months after it happened. Because then, JC, then I have to go back to a lot of my character notes and go, who is this again? Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
Well, and speaking of going back in time, DHB wanted to let y'all know the readings for the Ducal Detective were excellent. Many thanks for taking the time to bring a really good story to life. Also, Ducal Detective Mysteries, Court of Mysteries. So, and yeah, I remember Melissa, Sarah talking to me one time where the first time she got one of those books back from you, and she was so excited because she had never pronounced Jax's name the cool way you did. And Sarah said, oh my God, that is just, I had no idea. And that makes everything so much better. So there you go.
I literally was thinking about that today. In my, like all the prep work that I was doing for today's episode, I was like, I have to make sure that I remind Melissa that she was the one that actually named my character for me. Because I was like, but so many of like your influence on so many of the characters throughout all of my books has just been, I don't think you'll ever know like how massive it has been, because there are characters who would have gotten killed off if you hadn't performed them the way that you did. There were characters that would never see the light of day again if you hadn't performed them the way you did. So it's really, really special. And I just can't thank you enough for being a part of this journey. And I'm so glad that that we got to explore your cozy mystery skills, because we had only been working on the Court of Mystery for the longest time. And hearing your American voice, I was like, wow. And it was because you had read, I think, an author's note as Sarah Burr. And I was like, wow, like she would sound so good as a cozy mystery narrator. And I think at that time I was just beginning to write the first Glenmyre Whim mystery. And I was like, oh, I hope that she'll work with me on this one because it was wonderful.
Yay. I love that feedback because so many times, JC, I had to have Sarah, okay, you know what? I'm gonna need you to send me a voice clip.
Okay.
Because poor Perry, poor his last name is never sounded out like it was intended, and that's all my fault. So
I honestly don't remember what it was or supposed to be anymore. It's like, you know what, we're going with it, and I'm just like, you know what, it works. It sounds fancy. That's all that
kept
matters.
the voice clip. Someday as memorabilia, I'll send it to you and go, this is what his last name was supposed to sound like, remember?
That'll be like
well, let me
blackmail.
ask you that. Okay. By the way, folks, we're going to go a little bit past the hour here because of a little bit of a technical hiccup. So we're going to go till about 5 after. So hang with us here. So I always and this is one of the fun things as a reader, as you know, we're seeing things on the page. So we just pronounce things how it's like, okay, I've never seen that name before. I've never seen that word before. I'm just going with it. So I always figured with Perry, it was Petrod. How close or how far am I?
I don't know. I don't honestly know what it is anymore.
It is, well, that is how I say it.
Okay.
You say it Petrod.
Petrod. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Lord
It
Petrod,
was not supposed to be that way, though.
It works though, and I mean, in that series, because it's like it is, you know, blended with like this fantastical element to it. It works to have like these random names that, you know, people haven't come across before. Like my favorite one was introduced like very late in the series, and he's like one of the bad guys. So it's like, but his name, I was like, when I saw it, I was like, I have no idea how this is pronounced, but it looked cool, and I was like, Melissa, this is how I want it to be pronounced. So who knows if Kilvard Savant is his, like, if that's how you would even pronounce that word.
It's your world. We pronounce it how you want it pronounced. That's the cool thing about, you know, creating a world, right?
There's so many comments that I've said to you where it's like, in my head, it sounds like, and then it's like, wow, Sarah, like, did you even think? But there are times where I make those, I think, assumptions on my end of like how vowels come together, especially like dealing with like French words with a French origin. And I go through the whole thing thinking that it sounds like oh, when it's really like and it's like, whoa, what did I do? And I have to like I'm like, well, that's actually what it is, Sarah. You can't like totally rewrite the rules at this point. So there are definitely some characters where I've like, I did that wrong, and it is what it is.
Oh, funny.
That is fabulous. And I just want to say a couple. It's also Mizan mentioned that she loves the Court of Mystery audiobooks as well. Yay, and Farmhouse Readers said Perry's last name, she pronounces it as Petrod also. So, okay.
Yay. All right. So everybody is right except for me.
Yeah. Sarah's only the person who thought it out. So just real quick reminder, folks, Sarah and Melissa are being super, super generous today. They're giving away copies of audiobook.
Yes.
Flying Off the Candle. All you have to do is drop WHIM, WHIM. There's a little hint for you into the chat. And all you have to do is have a free basic Spotify account to get a copy of it. So, while we still have a few minutes left, Melissa, as an author who is very jealous of Sarah, because I don't have any of my books out in audiobook yet, and that's not a sore point for me. In all seriousness, though, if authors want to collaborate with you, where can they find you? How can they get a hold of you to maybe talk about your process and to learn more about what you do?
My website, voiceofmelissagreen.com, is a really great place to start. It has all of my Facebook, Instagram, phone number, email. It has all the different ways that you could possibly want to get a hold of me. It has most of the books that I've done. I need to update that a little bit. And it has a lot of different samples of different types of things that I've read. So that's a great place to start. But yeah, email is the best way. voiceofmelissagreen@gmail.com. I always answer anything
She's
that someone sends me
she's
along
very,
those lines.
very responsive. I can vouch.
Yeah. So like, how did the two of you meet?
Oh, we have our meet cute is it starts on the ACX platform, which is Amazon's kind of audible recording hub that they spun up for creating audiobooks for their KDP platform. And a wild thing about how the world works, or how fate works, or destiny, or what have you. I had been auditioning people for The Ducal Detective. That was the first like little project that I was like, you know what, like, let's see if I can, I was like, let's see if I can publish this as a book. All right, I did that. Let's see if I can get it as an audiobook. And, you put your book out there, you say, here's my little audition piece, feel free to submit. I was kind of overwhelmed with the amount of people that actually auditioned for the book in the first place, because it was just like, wow, like, you do know that this is like, I've sold like 100 copies, people, like, what are we doing here? And so the whole process was kind of really overwhelming for me on my end, going through and listening and being like, oh, this person doesn't capture Jax, and like that, I was like, who is Jax? And like waiting to hear somebody that was like, oh, that's her. And I was actually getting ready to kind of settle for somebody that I was like, you know what, I guess this is like what my options are at this point. And I was standing in a Best Buy. I get an email saying, you have an audition. And it was Melissa's audition. I listened to it and I turned to my now sister-in-law and I was like, oh my God, you have to hear this woman's voice. And in Best Buy, we're like listening to Melissa's audition piece and she's like, wow, she is good. And that was it. I found Jax and reached out to Melissa to be like, I would love to work with you. And together we started fumbling through the ACX process together. And, how many books, like 15, 16 books later? Here we are.
I love that story so much. When I came on last time and I found out about that story, I immediately had to tell my mom, because when I had auditioned for that, I did not think I was going to get it. I had 6, 8 books under my belt at that point. I'd had quite a bit of coaching, but I was still very nervous about going out and getting my own jobs. And I saw that audition and I had called my mom and I said, I don't know, I recorded it 5 times. I just love it so much and I'm not sure which one to send. And it's just every hobby I've ever had is this book. All the Renaissance fairs I've worked at, all the theater that I've done, everything. I'm like, it's this character and I love it so much and I know I'm not going to get it. And wow.
But I'm so glad that you found the courage to do it, because by golly, it was just,
look at us now,
amazing. And I mean, it just goes to show like the importance of believing in yourself, following your dreams, all of that good stuff, which is all like always like what I want to promote out into the world. And it's like finding a kindred spirit in that journey is really special. So I'm glad that it worked out for us.
Me too.
Yes, and I'm glad I get to kind of like come along for the ride, and kind of a little tertiary, status here. And the bad thing is we do kind of need to wrap things up a little bit. Folks, thanks so much. Also I wanted to say, Paige mentioned that Melissa and Sarah are wonderful. So there we go. Proof positive.
Thank you.
It was a match made in heaven or a match made in the realm of virtues. It doesn't matter where it was made. But before we go, I've kind of hijacked being in charge today. Sorry, folks. Any parting thoughts from you, Melissa?
Oh my gosh. Get the word whim into the comment section and listen to the book. Not so much for me, but because this woman's mysteries are to die for. Can I be that cheesy? Can I be that cheesy? They're so fun. You'll fall in love with the characters is the first thing that will happen to you, and then you will be terrified that they will be the murder victim, because you will love every one of them.
And so and as the writer, this is one of the times where I have actually changed who my killer was like halfway through the storyline, because I really kind of fell in love with the person that was my killer. And it was just like, oh man, I've got to stop doing this to myself. But there's something special about the folks in Crucible. I don't know really like what it is. I think it's because I created the town, like they were my COVID lockdown companions, and being able to like find refuge in a safe, welcoming community where people care about one another. That was like my main goal. It's like, I just want to create like a place where people care about their next door neighbor more than maybe they care about themselves. And it was a very cathartic experience. And I'm just like, I'm so happy with how Hazel and Poppy and all of their friends are growing, that they've added, Hazel's added some fur babies into her life, which is really exciting. And so for folks who do enter the word whim into the chat, we're going to do something very special today. Instead of one giveaway winner, everyone who would like a copy, who has joined us live and put the word whim into the chat for today, we're going to give you a copy of the audiobook. If you would like to start on book 1 for You Can't Handle the Truth, I'm more than happy to provide that one to you instead. Just email me at giveaways@thebookishhour.com or it's bookishtime.com. I'm going to paste it into the chat so that you guys have the right one here. Oops. Let's see. So yes, giveaways at itsbookishtime.com. Email me which one you would love to receive, and I will send on over the download code for you, because I think everybody should get to enjoy Crucible if they want to. So thank you for being here today to celebrate the release with us. For our folks that joined us live, appreciate all the support, all the cheers, and all the well wishes. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Melissa, for being here. It's always amazing to see you and catch up with you. And hopefully we'll be able to do this again when the final Court of Mystery book is concluded.
Yay. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one.
Don't be too excited. But that's going to be a little bit in the future, because I'm still working my way through so many plot holes that it'll be interesting to see how it all wraps up. So again, thank you for being here. Always amazing to hear your insights about voice acting and getting into the heads of characters. I mean, I could talk for hours about it. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me. You guys are absolutely great. I enjoyed every second.
Yay. And again, to our viewers, we have a episode of The Bookish Hour also airing this week, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Our guest is Lynn Cahoon, cozy mystery legend. And, while we'll be covering all things cozy that she has written, we are going to be focusing on the latest Kitchen Witch mystery that she has, and be celebrating her release with her. So I hope that you'll be able to join us at 8 p.m. As always, you can check us out at itsbookishtime.com for our schedule, to sign up for episode reminders, and see what we have coming up for our calendar. So we've got some folks, Farmhouse Reader, DHB, you're very welcome. Thank you for being here to support. Mark, I've asked myself many times, is it time to end the Court of Mystery? But I think that you'll find as you get to, what is it, book 14, that like poor Jax, she's earned a little respite, I think. But I am leaving the door open, spoiler alert, for there to be a spinoff series. So there will be more Realm of Virtues ahead for us all. But I'm happy to hear that. And Mizan, I'm glad that you're enjoying it enough to second Mark's opinion. So thank you guys. And without further ado, we won't keep you any longer. Be well and stay bookish, everybody. We will see you for our next episode. Bye.